Today, I'm going to tell you why Tom Brady is not the greatest of all time. Everybody uses the 6 rings, maybe 7. He's been to 10 Super Bowls argument. I'm here to kind of dive into that and prove why you can't really use that in an argument because football is a team sport and a bunch of other reasons. Tom Brady is not the single reason why they've won every Super Bowl. I will show you why. If you look past each victory, each Super Bowl is not Tom's to single-handedly claim the way some people say. First, I want to make sure that everybody knows a QB rating is over 95 if it's good, over 100 if it's excellent. Um, Below 90 is where performance can be considered kind of bad or not great. And every team that Tom Brady has played on has had an absolutely ridiculous defense, and half of his career included Gronk. So, and then he had Randy Moss for some of his career as well. So, can't look past that. So Super Bowl against the Rams and Kurt Warner in 2001, his first one. 145 yards and an 80 below average rating. So make of that what you will. Other notable events include a Ty Law 47-yard INT for a touchdown. I'd say that's pretty important in the game. And then Vinatieri wins the game. It's not a Brady, touchdown winning drive. It's setting up the greatest kicker of all time instead to do your work for you. So, but don't worry, 145 yards in the Super Bowl gets you MVP when there's no one else to give it to. So let's not forget the tuck rule. If you don't know what that is, please look it up. I don't want to go into it right now. It's a different story, but if you know what it is, they shouldn't have even been in this game. Brady basically fumbles and they call it an incomplete pass. Just look it up. Super Bowl 38 versus Jake Delhomme. If you don't know who he is, there's a reason. He's not around anymore, and congrats, you beat him. Brady has a pretty good game, and even though if you look at the touchdowns he throws, 2 of them were for 5 yards, and one of them was 1 yard to a linebacker playing offense. Make of that what you will. I don't find it very impressive, but again, everybody's got their own opinions. Vinatieri's big balls once again won it with a 41-yarder. And Brady takes home his second MVP. So you go to the Super Bowl against the Eagles. Donovan McNabb. Brady goes for 236, 2 touchdowns, a good rating. I think that's a little pedestrian for some number for Super Bowl. He didn't win MVP this one, but still. Another 4-yard touchdown pass and 1 2-yard touchdown pass. Congrats. Again, I don't think that's crazy impressive, but game ends on McNabb throwing a pick, and Deion Branch, wide receiver, gets MVP. If a wide receiver gets it over the quarterback, that means the quarterback didn't have that great of a game. So, Super Bowl against the 10-6 Eli Manning Giants. This is when the Patriots are undefeated, and Brady puts up that. The below average rating, average passing yard game, and a touchdown. Congrats. They only score 14 points on a really good Giants defense, but still, this was the year where they were considered one of the, if not the best offense of all time, and they the second best receiver of all time, having the best year of all time. They were previously undefeated. No one picked the Giants to win this. And yes, the Giants had the helmet catch, but again, if you are considered one of the greatest, if not the best offense of all time, you should not hang 14 points in the Super Bowl on the Giants. And I shouldn't even say hang. You should measly put up 14 points. Eli Manning takes home his first Super Bowl MVP. Additionally, Patriots were caught in 2007 cheating, so they shouldn't have even been there. And if they had won, it would be nullified, in my opinion, because they are cheaters. Then, again, 47 against the even worse this year Giants. My Niners lost to them in a pretty crappy way off of some fumbles. I don't even think the Giants should have been there, but there they are, 9-7. Brady goes for another pedestrian game and starts the game off with a safety from an intentional grounding. Still couldn't beat piss poor Eli Manning, and keep in mind that Belichick was at his peak in terms of defensive coaching right now. It only gets better from here, but they're still incredible. And Brady had Gronk, Hernandez, R.I.P., and Wes Welker. Great offense. Still couldn't win it. And Eli takes home his second MVP, and I think he's overrated too, but that's a different story. Super Bowl 49 against the Legion of Boom. Brady has a pretty good game. 2 picks, not great, but this is the year that he cheats again, deflating the footballs. Yes, it makes a difference. I will tell you that firsthand. I was a quarterback that could not throw when I got to varsity because the ball literally was bigger and I have tiny hands. So deflating the ball does make a difference. And if you don't think Malcolm Butler won that game for them, and you don't think that Seattle should have won that game, you have no brain. There's no argument for that. And Brady takes home his third. Congrats. After the season, Brady suspended for cheating again, make that 2 Super Bowls tarnished by cheating scandals. Super Bowl 51 versus the Falcons, the comeback, whoop-de-doo. Brady throws for 466, an average rating, maybe a little bit above average, and a pick. And, everybody wants to talk about the fact that he threw for 466, but they went down in the beginning of the game. He threw a pick 6 for 82 yards, and everyone said it was going to be over. And yes, it was a good comeback, but there was a lot of reasons why he threw for 466. It wasn't like he was dominating. He had to. He had to throw for the entire game. He threw 62 passes. That's absurd. Then, if you go here, this is one thing. This is a hill I will always die on. Brady's going to throw this ball, and the guy that touches it first is the guy that should pick it off first. Then there's going to be 2 other guys that hit each other because they're trying to pick it off because it's still a terrible pass, and Edelman saves his ass. This should have been intercepted right there, and there's 2 guys right there that should have picked that off. And that's with 2:19 left in the game. They go down and tie it. If you're going to pretend like that's Tom Brady being a superstar, almost throwing the game, congrats, you're blind. After the game, many thought James White, including myself, should have been MVP. He had 110 receiving yards and 3 total touchdowns, and he won the game in overtime. But again, don't worry, Tommy gets the MVP. Super Bowl 52 against Nick Foles and the Eagles. Brady throws for 505, 3 touchdowns, good rating. Pretty good rating. But again, they were losing for almost, I want to say, the whole game. He has to throw the ball all the time. He throws for 505 because it's all they got to do. So this was a record, but he lost the game and they were losing. Brady's won MVP of the league because Carson Wentz destroyed his knee, so Brady was default. There really was no one else to give it to. An L, he just lost. He lost to Nick Foles. You lost to Nick Foles in the Super Bowl. You're considered the greatest of all time. You lost to a backup. You lost to Nick Foles. MVP Nick Foles. One of my favorite Super Bowls. Prior to the Super Bowl versus the Rams the following year, we have this against the Chiefs in an all-time AFC title game, and the actual greatest quarterback of all time, Patrick Mahomes. Excuse the ad.
Allow me to walk away from the game.
Come on. This is what I see as called the worst NFL penalty of all time, in my opinion.
So now this gives the Chiefs sack specialist.
Important part of the game. They call roughing the passer on this.
A hit to the face to the helmet by Chris Jones. He's reaching over.
You're going to tell me that this is roughing the passer. You hear the crowd because it's ridiculous. The announcers are saying right where. You think about Joe Montana and John Elway in the time that they had to play where you could actually hit each other, and the things that Brady has gotten protected by is ridiculous. I gotta click on it. And then later in that game, hopefully there's not another ad. Thank you. A minute left. They're down. The infamous offsides. He throws a pick to lose the game. Yes, that's on Gronk. Still pick. He shouldn't have been going to the Super Bowl.
Offside. Defense number 55 lined up in the neutral zone. The 5-yard penalty will replay third down.
Can you believe it? He's right there. And he's over the blue by quite a bit.
So, yes, he's offsides. I still see that as 2 opportunities where it's just a laundry list of times Tom Brady has gotten bailed out by the refs. It's make what you want of it. Super Bowl 53 against Jared Goff and the Rams. The Rams shouldn't have even been there because if you know what happened with the Saints and the no call on Nikel Roby-Coleman, the Saints would have creamed the Patriots. It would have been ridiculous. Brady goes for 262, a pick, and a shitty rating. the Patriots defense was probably one of the best I've ever seen, at least in my lifetime this year. The final score was 13-3. Brady didn't even score. For perspective, the Rams in that year scored 33, 34, 35, 38, 33, 23, 39, 29, 35, 36, 54 against the Chiefs. 36, 23, 31, and 48 points of the regular season. It was a ridiculous offense. This was Sean McVay's coming out year. He went on a tear with Jared Goff. Jared Goff isn't even that good, but they still were a ridiculous offense. And Todd Gurley was incredible. And this defense won them Super Bowl. Tom Brady did not win this Super Bowl. That's what I'm saying. And that's wrong. It was Julian Edelman. Again, when a wide receiver wins MVP, it means that the quarterback wasn't that impressive. End of the 2019 season, we have this glorious moment.
How about this guy? Tom together. Boy, can I
15 seconds left, Probably not going to, even if he had more time, maybe this would have been a little bit more manageable. This is his last game in New England. Nobody knows that at this point. And wow, what a shame. What a way to end. Tennessee shouldn't have even been close to winning this game. And this is the year where they say Brady has no weapons. For the first time in his career, everyone's hurt for him. It's all, Tom doesn't have everything perfect, so it's not his fault that they suck. But if he's the greatest, why can't he carry them? Aaron Rodgers didn't have Devontae Adams for his whole career. There were years where he had nobody. Okay? Tom Brady himself needs help. He's never been the source of greatness for his team. He has always had an enormously talented and extremely unfair supporting cast. And then there's this. Right after there, he goes to Tampa. You look at Tampa. Great coach, Bruce Arians. Mike Evans, an all-pro receiver, top 5, maybe top 10, if not. Chris Godwin, another top 10 receiver. Gronk, O.J. Howard, a pretty good tight end. I would say he's probably better than Gronk now. He got hurt this year. He had a pretty good running game. Ronald Jones had a pretty good coming out year. Fournette, if you watched him in the playoffs, the last 2 games, has played the best football of his entire career. A loaded defense, when you think about it. Those 2 linebackers are ridiculous. Shaq Barrett's a great talent along with JPP and Sue. They got all over Rodgers yesterday. And then Antonio freaking Brown. That is 1, 2, 3 number 1 overall receivers. He needed 3 of them. 3. But it's all Brady, right? The Bucs shouldn't have had the amount of losses that they had this year. He was the reason that they lost any of their games and almost lost some other ones. Every Tampa loss this year. Saints week 1. Brady had 2 picks. Then they lost to the Bears. Brady played like garbage. He had some dropped interceptions. I watched the game. The Saints again. Brady 3 picks. Rams. Brady 2 picks. Chiefs. Brady 2 picks. In the playoffs versus the Saints. He had 2 terribly dropped interceptions. Drew Brees lost that game. Brady did not win that game. He threw for 199. Congrats. And then yesterday, he threw 3 interceptions. He was not... I'm watching that game, and I'm like, they're going to win this thing, and everyone's going to talk about Brady and completely forget how he played today. He was terrible. He was terrible. That Packers defensive back 20, Kevin King, was the reason they lost. It wasn't Brady throwing guys open. The guy was getting burnt left and right. And as far as the refs go, that's a different story, but... that PI at the end of the game when they didn't call anything throughout the whole game, but then when it comes time for Brady to get a call, everybody's saying the same thing because everybody knows that he gets away with shit. So he's been to 10 Super Bowl, or he's going to be going to his 10th Super Bowl. But this isn't basketball. This isn't LeBron going to 10 titles because that's 5 guys on a team and he's one of 5 versus one of 22 starters. Brady doesn't play defense. QB wins should be phased out of arguments. And he may be the most decorated, but in terms of him being the greatest quarterback of all time, let alone the greatest football player of all time, it's just flawed. You have to go deeper into the argument than 6 rings or 7 rings if it's 7 rings. It's not the ultimate argument ender when it's football. It's a completely different thing.